get into what is to be a very, very, maybe even the most volatile week of 2025 as we go into the last trading week. Basically, before Christmas, I mean, we have Christmas on Thursday. We have no more 5-day trading weeks as far as the stock market's concerned or the futures markets until the new year.
No more 5-day trading weeks.
As next week, we'll have New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So you'll have a shortened week as well. It is sure to bring a lot of volatility. What will go unnoticed in this time is that it is setting up a unbelievable opportunity as we continue to trend lower with some. I believe XDC is more than likely out in front. XDC is starting to lay that framework for a deal that's going to come up here. And if you're liquid, if you have money to the side, whatever the case may be, as I'm not a financial advisor, and you must, at the end of the day, decide what you're going to do. Otherwise, you will be left in peril within your own portfolio playing the victim. The moment you play the victim when you're trying to invest, it's over. You might as well just take your money, your currency, your investments. You might as well just end it all with the investments, pack it up, re-educate yourself, and try again at a later time. When you start to blame somebody else when you're an investor, it means that you really have no idea and you really shouldn't be trading. And I myself at one time would buy things, or I would try to blame somebody else or some kind of outside factor, or the exchange or the stock market or them halting things or blah, blah, blah. The bottom line was I made an improper investment. It wasn't until I could acknowledge that I was a much better trader and I could open myself up to criticism within my own. I made a mistake. I have to own it. Therefore, now I can correct my mistake, move forward, and use this as a guiding stone for future endeavors so I don't make the same mistake. When you blame somebody else, you cannot learn from it because you have now played the victim. And when you go forward, you'll make the same mistake, except you're a little bit older next time. And eventually we get so old, we become these bitter old people and we just blame everybody else for all eternity and we never grow. So I'll leave everybody with this as I get off of this topic. And I shared this with somebody else for good reason. And just let this sink in what it means. A guiding stone in front of you. I do this with the thought, the cleanliness, the goodness of my heart. This is my own historical data. And at the end of the day, I'm only showing you what I do. And I do it in a very graceful way. I come here every single day. I don't ask for anything. And I do this with a smile most times. So just think of it this way. 1 Kings 20:39 through 42. And as your servant was busy here and there, he was gone. The king of Israel said to him, so shall your judgment be, you yourself had decided it. So shall your judgment be, so for you have decided it. So you can read into that however you want, but sometimes when you cast too many unpronounced stones, your guider, your leader, is no longer within your peripherals. He might still be there in front of you, but he's now lost the acknowledgement towards your sector. And therefore you lose out on any benefit that could come from it. So be careful the stones you cast and try to do this in a much better way. Good afternoon. 1:31 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Sunday, December 21st, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. I'm back already because I left when I wasn't ready to be done, but I wanted to go to church. So I got to go to church. And as the Lord and Savior says, for he who is not judged, I don't know, it's not exactly said like that, but within Scripture, if you're not facing judgment, essentially you're not doing something right. Come back from church, and I read criticism. So it inspires me even more to just stay out in front of everybody. There's one thing I can guarantee you, I'm very transparent. There's one thing I beg my audience to do is not to buy XRP when it's up and above over here. We bought at 35, 40, 45, 50, 60, 70 cents, some of you, for a reason. So you didn't have to face the despair when we had these overinflated prices as it corrected like it should, as we made everybody whole from 2018. To think there wouldn't be at least a 75% correction, which I've talked about for years, when we finally got up here, was asinine. Now, do we come back to the October 10th wick? I certainly hope so, but remember, there's so many different ways to play this market. There's so many different opportunities that develop and you might not even realize it. I see a very big opportunity that's developing with XDC as we go forward if this continues in a big way. Not only did it give us the opportunity to fill that gap over the weekend and make a quick 6 to 8% if you were being vigilant, but now with the added liquidity that we've had on the sidelines for much time here now, as what has my motto been for the last 2 months, let it happen. That was when I stopped most of the swing trading. Just, you gotta let this happen. There were so many variables that come into play, and I've talked about mid-November for a long time as that was when we'd finally get a direction in the market. Some people are starting to interpret that as that's when it had to go to 549 or 679, which I don't know where we get that interpretation, but been talking about it for many, many months. Mid-November is where we'd finally get a direction, and we wouldn't have to ask anymore. Could take until Q1, Q2 to right the ship, we don't know. Quantitative easing is a good step, but it takes steps to layer into the United States. The Bank of Japan raising rates 1/4 of a basis point is not a good thing. You know, there's variables here, but at the end of the day, if we can follow the breadcrumbs and we make the proper investment and we time the market properly, we take ownership of our own trading, and we acknowledge the fact that variables change every single day in a risk asset, just maybe you can be part of the 5% who's not going to get their ass kicked here. But what I see a lot of is I see a lot of people that don't necessarily want to take ownership in this space, don't necessarily believe that the technicals are actually a feasible way of staying ahead of the news and the markets and all the deception. I see a lot of people begging for me to give them a handout, but then the moment that I give the knowledge and they misinterpret it or misuse it, they have no problem coming over here and putting my nuts in a vice. Mind you, I do all of this for free, and I say every single day, I'm not a financial advisor. So if you choose to take what I'm doing, this is my own personal belief in the market and what I'm choosing to do. This is my own historical data. And you need to, at the end of the day, not be the victim and be the winner. And you need to maintain your own trades. Like, you need to own what you're doing here, not just in trading, but in life in general. Every single time somebody gets hurt by something, the blame gets cast on somebody else. For every time that somebody doesn't cast blame onto somebody else when they make a mistake, they have just now become the king of their own domain. It's such an easy division and separation, but the blame isn't just here. That will travel with you everywhere you go. So, imagine if I came in here every day and blamed everybody else for my problems. You know, you don't want to do that. I wouldn't be here every day, would I? So I just try to come in here and I try to share what I see. So in the title I said, XRP, the truth no one will tell you. All roads will lead to all-time highs, but price deception expected prior. It's very simple. I think we're going to get back to all-time highs and beyond at some point. I truly believe we're going to get some big price deceptions. Now, if we follow what XDC did prior to that drop yesterday, XDC made a real quick run up to the 200-day. Now in this candle is making the move back down, which means XRP, XLM, and a few others are likely going to do one of two things. One, they're a step behind, and now they're going to go and make that same run up to create the base and the space to basically deface us is the best way to put it. unless we get some volume. You can always get volume and shake the narrative. But the more we don't do that, we're getting closer to the end of the month, the end of the year. The traditional Christmas bend us over a railing and dump on us into oblivion when everybody thinks it's going to be a Christmas pump. You know, we've had that a few times here over the last couple of years. But if we go by that same philosophy that XDC did, and this isn't a double top, because one could argue maybe it topped and then did another one here, so we have to make sure that that's not the case. But if it does do an XDC style move, maybe it will come up to 206. We're back testing this pattern breakout. So in real time, if we hold in the small micro, $1.90, $1.89, in theory, we could even push this. So the one thing everybody needs to realize, when it's in a bearish downtrend, until it comes out of a bearish downtrend, you approach it like it's in a bearish downtrend. In a bearish downtrend, every high that's made, you expect an even lower low to be formed until it's not. So is that going to be the case still? Well, XDC for its own self said yes. As it's a front runner, it made another high and made an even bigger low. For Epic, we don't know. Epic made an even bigger high. But is it double topping from back here? Not double topping, but is it forming a topping like a rising wedge, so to say? Or are we back testing and we're going to have a continuation and XDC is kind of on its own right now? I'll be honest with you, I'm very pleased to see what XDC is doing because it's going to give tremendous opportunity. Now all of a sudden Epic's extremely overbought in the daily. Weekly's fine. In the monthly, you don't have enough data yet. So we're still waiting for that data point. XDC put itself where it needed a drop down. It really needed a drop down. Like, there's no doubt about it. XRP's putting itself in that same spot, but, you know, if I say something towards XRP, you know, I might get my nuts chopped off today, so. And yet, I've been the biggest proponent when it was cheap. And I've been the biggest naysayer when it's expensive not to buy. And not to ruin your average. If you had that dedication at 30, 40, and 50 cents, why are you buying at 2, 3, 5 times? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. Excuse my French. Even for people who buy something at 30 cents and it goes to $30, they're not buying it all the way the fuck up when it's a risk asset. Maybe if it's backed by gold and silver or some kind of real money, or maybe if it's a mining stock where you can see the actual, you know, the earnings and the revenue and what they still have in the ground and what they're going to take out and when they're going to take it out and all this other crap, and you understand that that's a little different. But still, you're not going to be investing in something at 3 and buy the same damn thing at 20 and raise your... That's just not good investing. You look for the next opportunity. If you miss it, you miss it. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with missing something. You just don't want to get caught in that never-ending peril to the top side. You know, you don't want to buy it. You don't want to be exit liquidity. Because then you're down 50% and you're blaming the Pope. But, let's see. For XRP, until we break out of this, in my opinion, until it breaks down out of what looks like a megaphone, right now the bottom side potential, even though $1.57 is within range, $1.68 if it comes down here until, you know, December 31st. But just to get back here now, XRP has a real shot here. If it doesn't come back below this hot pink line, even at $1.85, which I think is the real support right now, to see if we're going to come back into a bearish phase, which, if I'm being honest, I don't know how we avoid this if we're talking about 5-wave movements. I just don't know how we avoid this. If you're talking about the wick off, there's no way to avoid this. But all roads lead to like $10. That's what's funny. That's what's funny. Even with all of the negativity that I receive, when people say that I'm a bearish piece of shit or whatever, when it comes to these times I get the blame, every single person who's down is just going to end up eating crow because they're going to end up selling it anyhow. And then it's ultimately going to go to the price targets. And then they're going to sit there and go, well, what the hell is going on here? It's just about timing. Nothing's changed. Nothing. Zero. The pattern hasn't changed a bit. It can even come down to $1 and still be very bullish. Like, it hasn't changed. The only thing's changed is people's perception here that they think that something needs to happen before it happens. Same shit I've been talking about for 5 years. Slow the fuck down. Excuse me, slow down. Don't force something to do something in 2 seconds. And don't call it the long game for nothing with a vision. Doesn't mean you have to sit through the whole downturn, but what it means is you have to see the whole pattern out fully before it starts to develop. It's a fundamental thing in your brain. You see green, you get greedy. You see red, you become fearful and blameful. And when people are losing money, they do crazy things they normally wouldn't do, right? When people feel in a pinch, they do things they often wouldn't do. They say things they often wouldn't say. But guess what? When you say things in those moments, it shows your true character. And then sometimes, just sometimes, it ruins a permanent relationship. And you come back and you go, but I was down, I was hurt, I was out, I was discouraged, I was despaired, I felt lied to, I felt betrayed. Remember, there's somebody on the other side of that. And I get to see 48,900 people that yell at me almost infatuately. There's about 3% of you that don't. You know who you are because you're here every day. But the majority, it's all negativity towards me. I get a lot more than you would imagine in the Telegram, too. That's why you don't see me talk as much. Am I going to put in the extra effort when I'm just getting discouraged left and right? I'm still there, but I have to stay in my own section so that I don't have to deal with it. Imagine putting all that time and effort in and then just getting, the railing. Everybody's human. So I may not show outwardly that I get affected by it because I still show up. But believe me, I'm a person who feels someone's spirit. I feel the emotion deeper than most people in real life. So I feel it. I feel it. You feel it. And the more you feel it, it's an ever-changing philosophy. So, don't be that person that loses the respect. And then you, going forward, 5 years from now, you sit there and you go, I can't believe he still won't talk to him. I mean, you should see in my real life what happens. If you think it's bad, you haven't seen anything. But I still show up, regardless. All right, so XRP right now, head and shoulders, topping reversal in the 30-minute. Pretty clear unless it breaks past this 30-minute resistance. Got a nice little bear flag possibly formed here on what could be the right shoulder of an M topping reversal. I don't think we can disagree unless we break above and invalidate this. And then simply what this is telling us, if this happens, you're coming down here to retest at $1.85. That's all it's telling us, period. That is all it's telling us. And if we can understand this, that's great. And then if it invalidates this, and this is just a micro consolidation and it's not really a breakdown, then we can start moving up and then we can start looking at this as, okay, can we get some volume to accompany it? Because we can see a clear possible bottom. Came down here almost to a V shape. And then it would almost warrant this because then you could go boom, boom, acknowledge a right shoulder here even. And then just maybe, you could base some kind of move like this off of here after it comes down, and then it would slant back, and then you could start pushing out towards that $2 area. Because there is a very heavy line of resistance here around $2. And when you start getting up towards that 218 to 222 zone, it's pretty big, I feel like. There's going to be some liquidity up there just by demand. So this could be filling and telling us that we're going to fill a liquidity strike to the top side, assuming we don't fall below $1.85. We could be building that structure. Now, whether or not this gets us out ahead, whether or not this says out ahead or keeps us out ahead, I don't know. Because at any moment, you could flip the script here and you could say, okay, that $1.77, maybe that does reset the count and make it more bullish, but you would have to prove and invalidate the 5 wave down. That's the thing that we have to do. And what concerns me is kind of what XDC did. It was trying to do it, and then it just kind of showed you like, hey, once this move ran out, now we got, but, we don't want to count our eggs before they hatch. And we also don't want to hatch our eggs before we even laid them kind of thing. And all I mean by that is you don't want to have your meal on the table, and you don't also want to feel like you've already got it in storage either to put the meal on the table before you have it killed or before you have it bred. I mean, you can't kill something before it's, you got to do the steps. You know, when you see a bull market, how we had late December, early January, I know it's infatuating, but if you've missed it, you've missed it. You're more than willingly, or you're more than likely to catch the last 20% of the run and feel so great about it. And before you even have a chance to think profits, because you're only up 20%, now you're all of a sudden down 60. It was great for that 2 weeks and 20%. Amber, TA or tears? I thought that was pretty good, TA. If I gave you tears, even better. That means I hit you in a certain spot that needed to be hit. That means I hit you here in your heart. Acknowledge deeper to what I'm saying, my good friend. Maybe I felt the gut punch. You ever think of that? Maybe sometimes I feel gut punches and I share it in unique ways, right? Ever think of that, friend? So if XRP, if that's the setup and we're trying to hold a support structure, anything shy of breaking $1.85 would lead us up past $2 and maybe push into that 218 zone, maybe even higher. But I can tell you, it would be better. It would be in our best interest here to go down to first, clear that $1.57 out, because that would officially allow that wave to finish. And then maybe, you know, we can avoid a toxic pull down. But I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I like that XDC seems to be deciding to have the pull down instead of the breakout, but it still has room to go. Like, it really has room to go. But it built the base now again if it wants to pull down for a rejection. This come up right here just from 449 all the way up to 46. That allowed us to be overbought now in the smaller time frame. So we'll see if we continue and we can reverse this daily, because this daily is going to end up pulling down real hard if this continues. This would be a brutal daily candle. Not to mention the way it would end the weekly. That's brutal. This would be an extreme weekly flop for XDC the entire week, and it basically closes at the lowest it possibly could have. Where we're at right now. So we need to Totally Awesome says, hey Tom, hope we are cool. I typed a message out for you on this morning's short. Oh yeah, no, we're fine. Absolutely fine. I got no problems with you. Oh no, what I'm talking about is it's not in regard to anybody who's well, it's in regards to a particular person, but they already know who they are. Because they have to live with seeing what I wrote back. It wasn't mean. It was just, it was the truth. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm very curious. I'll try to get to some things. We'll see how far we get, because I want to make sure that I kind of keep this more compact here, because when I start to go off to 500 different tokens, it seems to leave people in peril because they can't distort XRP from other tokens. And that's no shot against anybody. That's just not the proper education has been had for most. So we don't realize that XRP is actually doing something different than something else and something else. Even though the patterns look similar, they're all doing their own thing. So I really want to see how XDC finishes the day. Is this an overzealous drop down of liquidity over the weekend? Or is this something we need to read into more? You know, is this the start of something deeper for XDC? Like, I really want to know here. Or are we forming some kind of bottom to come back up here to 466? Is it trying to extend down here real quick to like this? I almost feel like maybe it's either coming to 427, 437. Is it trying to come down to the 28? If this bear flag plays out, the problem with this is that is massive. And unless that's a double bottom, it just dropped it in the hourly back down. So we need to make sure that's not a double bottom. But let's just assume for a second that maybe, yeah, see, that gets you pretty far down if this were to just break down. Now, I've seen it the other way too, where it does something like this and then all of a sudden it eats it all back up. But no, you don't usually see that after it breaks up and then buys it all back down, because that's a lot more bears than bulls that came into the market there. I mean, I can tell you that. That daily looks horrible right now. That's above and beyond horrible right now. The weekly, I mean, it's got some work to do here. We got to come up with some decent ways here. Otherwise, that's going to be felt by this candle close. Like, there's a lot that needs to happen here for XDC. A lot. Oh, no, I'm not saying I'm not going to give you my thoughts on Filecoin. I'm going to try to do it in a more direct fashion today and not skip around. And then, you know, when I get off of the point between XDC and the correlation between XRP and XLM to see if we do follow any similarities here. Because XLM came down to 20.4 cents. Weekly is extremely oversold. Extremely oversold. Monthly's pushing down still, made a new low, which, see, this is where it's dangerous. Yeah, we've had some pullback, but if we were to close here on a new low, that would be extremely bearish for the weekly. I mean the monthly. But we still have time in the monthly. Like, we still have time in the monthly. But if the monthly closed here, this would be engulfing and on a new low. That's not exactly bullish. But it doesn't mean 100% going forward that it would always be bearish. And it doesn't even mean that this downtrend can't have reversals or can't break through. We just need to see some volume and a push through. And right now, you know, we still have to face the fact that Bitcoin is breaking down out of a rising wedge and the technical target hasn't been met. We have to still understand, even if it doesn't play out, we still need to be aware that in each past cycle, Bitcoin, after topping, it always back tested the old all-time high, broke back up, 21 made an all-time high, it back tested in the bear market the 2018 or 17 or 18 high. Then we came up in this bull cycle, made a new all-time high. If we do what we did in the past cycles, we would come back to 69K to back test the prior all-time high as support. We've done this every single cycle. Every single cycle in crypto, we've been able to do this for Bitcoin without fail. So that's also something we have to anticipate as a possibility, that we can go back down and tap things like that. Now I commented that last night and you didn't acknowledge, Tom. I don't know what you're referring to. Unless you're talking about in the Telegram. Oh, just give me a hard time. Fair enough, Crypto Plumber, fair enough. Oh, Bitcoin back testing. Yes. Gotcha. I see what you're saying. So yeah, but for Bitcoin, unless we get back up, well, I mean, we could still back test. Like, this is the thing. If we're putting in a couple bottoms, or if this ended up breaking out and this wasn't a bearish rejection here, but we have to get past there before it's not. We still need to get past 90,000, roughly 176 in real time. Otherwise, it plays down into that red circle, down towards the 72,473. But it could stop here. But it all depends. If we come back up and retest again, then we'd have to move this up. But we'll see. We'll see. There's all these things that can happen. It's still kind of bizarre to me. It's almost weird that XDC dumped down like that right now. Like, just to see that it's not like it's a random token. You know, it's part of the bigger agenda. So seeing a more of a utility-driven token that's part of the R3, it's kind of weird to see that happening. Like, if it was any other token, if it was just like Algo, or if it was Band, or if it was like Axelar, or some of the other ones we watch, but the fact that it was XDC, it makes me wonder what's actually coming for XLM and XRP. You know, they seem to run in tandem a little bit. But it certainly seems off to me. It certainly seems off. So let me go in lockstep and try to see what we can get out of Filecoin now, since somebody's been asking about it. But I can kind of make this parallel jump right now because we can see, because I know File, based on the comments, has broken down. And maybe it'll give us another look in, because if some of these are breaking down, it means the rest are going to follow soon. Like, these aren't just doing this by accident at all. And that's the problem. This is the bigger problem for Filecoin. This is what we talked about the other day. I remember when we did this, we could have used a different chart, but I remember doing this with this support resistance. It was just, we were trying to figure out exactly where to put it. It was something like that. And like the fact that we came up here and this ended up being a rejection at $2.41. The problem with this is you're literally resetting this pattern as we speak into new all-time low areas. Like, this is not a good sign. Like, you know how you go into discovery for breakouts? This was my warning when somebody asked me if they should buy Filecoin the other day, and I said no. The problem with this is you know how you go into discovery when you make all-time highs and you go up there and you try to discover? We're in all-time lows. I don't know if you guys know what that means normally, but now we have to price discover lower. This could be the fizzling out of Filecoin and the truthfulness that it is actually old tech. And it might not fizzle out, but it's in all-time lows. This is the scariest spot to own a token if you're just buying it, because you have no idea price discovery to the downside. And I can tell you for a fact that weekly's got a lot of room it can move down. A lot. The daily did a very big injustice as it's having a bearish divergence as price comes down and the RSI goes up. That's not a good disparity, because the price is coming down and we're still becoming more bearish in the daily RSI. That's a bearish divergence. You don't want that. What you want is the price to be going up and the RSI going down. That would be a bullish divergence. This is the exact opposite of a bullish divergence. So, I mean, if you want to know my knowledge, I can teach you every single day, but you got to be open to listen to what I'm saying and not what you want to hear. It's a very big difference. Sorry, I had to feed my kitty. I gotta feed my cat. Only us wolves in here, no. The sheep, weasel, squirrels are all gone now. Yep, you're true. That's true. But I mean, does that make sense to everybody? Who asked me about Filecoin? And I apologize that I feel bad that you're down in it, but does that make sense now for even the person who was in it, what happened here? And this is very bad sign. So we don't know when it's going to go back up. In a bearish divergence setting, the RSI continues to get stronger, but the price is depreciating. That means it's going to be a continuation down. You can still have bouts of up, but this isn't not just a downtrend. This is in all-time low territories. This is craziness. 1970 Legend, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge and being a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram. As the Buckeyes get ready to, they're getting ready for their quarterfinals here coming up. I think they have a good chance. I think they have a good chance at repeating. There's not very many teams that I can say that will beat them. So 1970 Legends, congratulations. And I think you got a good draw. I think Miami's a good draw. I really do. Not saying it's going to be a cakewalk, but Miami's offense sucks. And if Texas A&M wasn't a fraud, they would have kicked the shit out of Miami. I did pick Miami to win the game. I didn't bet, but I did pick them to actually win the game. I just didn't bet money on it. That was my bet. I just thought they would. Texas A&M was too fraudulent. Can't move the ball enough. But I think Ohio State should be at least, I didn't look at the odds, but they're going to be at least a 10 to 13 point favorite, and they got to be. But then the next game, if Georgia and Ohio State stay pat, that's the game that could give Ohio State problems. And I only say that because the one big problem Ohio State has is their physicality. And I know they're soft. And a lot of people don't want to hear it in Ohio, but it's not that your demeanor is soft, it's just your playing style is a little softer, not by choice. That's what happens when 90% of your team goes to the NFL. You're not softer in terms of mentality. You're just not as physically strong yet. You're trying to build the trenches, and that takes a couple of years to get the interior built. But they're doing it with finesse right now, so. Indiana, Bama, I'm taking Indiana. Alabama's got a lot of flaws, and Indiana's going to expose them. Ohio State 9.5. That seems kind of low to me, but I guess that's within range. I think Alabama's going to be in for an eye opener against Indiana. I think the whole country is going to be. I really do. You know what's ironic? Where did Kurt Cinetti come from? Does anybody know what school he coached 2 years ago that was still prominent and actually did something that was because of him this year? Where did he coach before he was at Indiana? Can somebody tell me where Kurt Cinetti coached? And there's a reason for this. Just think about how crazy this is going to be when I tell this point. No. I'm talking about where he coached, not who he coached under. What team did he coach? What team did he leave to come to Indiana? And it's kind of it's pretty cool if you think about it. I want to see if anybody knows. Most people won't know, actually. Should I just say it? Okay, guys. Who was the team that was in the college football playoff as an at-large? James Madison. So not only did Kurt Cinetti get Indiana into the playoff, his team that he built, that is still largely together besides who he brought to Indiana, that whole culture sustained at James Madison, and they got in the playoff, got their ass kicked. But that's all Cignetti. So if you think it's just Indiana, I mean, think about that. He built that up. So now he actually had James Madison in there because of what he built before he left. All that foundation he built was why he's at Indiana. And it lived on at James Madison. He allowed that culture to, I mean, and you know what? They might have got their ass kicked, but they put up a fight still. Scoring 20 points, even though they were getting blown out and still trying to score and go toe-to-toe. It was respectable. It wasn't like Tulane. But anyhow. That's where we're at with Filecoin. Doesn't it? Oh, fuck. I want to bring that back out because it's a good teaching moment. I know a lot of people are going to leave. But these are the days that really will set you in the right direction. Like, literally. These are the kind of days, if somebody's willing to teach you, I would have paid... Oh, my God. When I was trying to learn, if somebody would have just sat down and talked like this, I'd have joined their army. I would have sent them a super chat. I would have just felt like I need to make sure this guy keeps coming back every single day. But that's the difference between me and most of the thinkers. You know, I know you need somebody. If I was watching this, you need them to explain to me, why is this so bearish? Not just because it's at an all-time low, but that negative or that bearish divergence that actually filled out here. But everybody needs to know what that means in the daily time frame. And it's in the daily. Like, that's a key, that's a key fundamental thing. Like, if you don't know how to trade, you put this stochastic RSI on and you see a downtrend and you're like, okay, how do I know if this is going to break out? Well, traditionally, if we're going down like this, the stochastic shouldn't be going up. Especially in the daily. There's no reason. We've had just think about it from here. This is where it started to go wrong for Filecoin, big time. When we hit right here, we were right at about, where did we bottom out here? The price action was at about $1.48, and we had, nope, it's a little bit lower. Hold on. Just for the sake of, we were at about $1.45 on Saturday, December 13th, and we were way oversold in the daily. Now, from December 13th, 8 days later, the price is 20 cents cheaper, but the RSI has exploded up. That is a huge negative divergence. Then you couple it with the fact we got a rejection on the bottom side of 241, even though we came through very volatilely to get rejected, and the fact that we're below the all-time low and we're in price discovery and the negative side. This isn't going to end well. Unless something changes that I can't see in front of me right now, I don't know how low this goes. I know I have a chart on here for Filecoin with these ridiculous low numbers. I just don't know if I want to go through and try to find it. Let's see. But I have one with ridiculous low numbers, and people were getting mad at me a long time ago when I would share it. Well, I guess it's not all-time lows because we had the wick on some of these charts. See, that's something I guess we should consider that. Because some of these charts did have these big wicks down. So I suppose we can't just say it's an all-time low. But some of them didn't show that massive liquidity. That's why I like this chart. That's why, and Crypto.com proves it again. Look at that liquidity strike. Those are the kind of things I'm talking about. Because then you can go to other charts and you just don't see it the same way. I'm sure Maxis had this for ages. Let's see what their liquidity strike looked like. Theirs was down at 50 cents on theirs too. So, I mean, if you talk about wick hunting, it shows exactly why this is not good. We might not see it on Coinbase, but on some of the other ones. Filecoin is an old tech, basically. It was something that went up to several $100s in the 21 bull market. But you should care because somebody in the community asked for help. So, you know, just don't brush it off as, I don't like this token. Like, I don't own it. I haven't traded it in eons. But somebody asked and they wanted to know. So I looked into it a little bit deeper. Joseph Euler, thanks for gifting a sub. And Tom's under 6+ months with the XRP Predictor. And also gifted a membership to AAUY. Shannon. Unbelievably generous. And in his first month now with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. And I see he's excited about it. Thanking Joseph. That is awesome. I just got the free membership. Sweet. Thanks, Tom. I'm glad you thanked Mr. Euler. That was very generous. How awesome is that? And I know I seen other things because it popped up. Kenny King, thanks for joining Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. You just made me the happiest person in the world today joining Tom's Army. I love it. Thank you so much for the vote of confidence. And that is my face superimposed on that emoji badge. Man, that is so awesome. CJ2 Pilot, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years with the XP589 Moon badge. And gifting a sub to Rio Ulysses for their first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. AAYU says, do we get a pump to at least 240? It is possible. But we have to break roughly $1.92. There's an area bound $1.94 and ultimately $2 to start to open up that door. And then if we can get on top of 2, we do have an opening between about $2 and around that 216 to 222 zone. So it's not impossible at all. We just have to be very cautious in the way that we approach this, or at least our mindset here, just because of the way that things are setting up. And it still feels so weird to see XDC dump like that. If there was ever a guiding stone, is it possible that XDC is just guiding us along here? I don't know. But I know as somebody who is going to be seriously invested in XDC again, once this figures itself out, I'm happy it dropped. I'm just hoping that the rest do the same thing. Because if we could get some kind of capitulation down here, and it would be, we're getting into a zone now, where we would get in, we need this crypto fear and greed to dump down again. People are getting way too optimistic here very quickly. Like the fact it's at 20 seems a little wrong to me. It shouldn't be that high. That just means people are starting to buy, and I would have rather it went the other way, but you know, it is what it is. I want the market psychology to meet the demand, and right now psychology is a little. We're almost to that, man, we're almost to that fringe point. It's so hard to explain if you don't know what I'm talking about. Oh my goodness, that's a crazy YouTube super chat 1970 legend. Whoa. Thank you for not only being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge and a very trusted mod in here, and the Buckeye, who keeps the hope alive, well, with Indiana and Oregon this year, but usually keeps the Big Ten's hope alive. Let's face it, Michigan's chumps. They come around once every 15 years to be present, and they kind of are on the outside looking in for the next 7 or 8 years while building back in. Says, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. How is HBAR looking? I bought more at 0.1084 and 1038. Thank you for the $99.99 super chat. That is unbelievable. Holy moly. Whoa. How's HBAR looking? I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world because the weekly's so oversold. You know, a lot of times we teach ourselves that. Is he awake? Awesome. We teach ourselves when we're oversold, it's a really good area to start buying in the weekly. We just have to make sure market conditions. So there's a very real chance that you could look at this, you know, in a very positive way, that buy. It's just if we break down this section, because it almost looks like a bearish channel. But until it breaks the channel down, it's still on bullish support until it breaks. Remember, it established that as a bullish area when it hit support here. The next time it hits support here. So unless it breaks past here and opens up the door to that drop, do I worry about it? Yes, because it's perfectly brought down to that exhaustion wick at 7.2 cents. Is it guaranteed to happen? Absolutely not. But is it likely? Is it probable? There's a possibility. We can't get out of that. It's definitely a possibility. The entire market is oversold. Yes, it is. But in reality, it still has more room it can go. Not saying that it has to, but it still definitely has the opportunity to continue to push down. I mean, when you look at a weekly sense, there's not many that are as oversold as XDC and for this long and still breaking down. And it's still going down farther. You know, I mean, it's still going down. So, you know, they can be oversold. But a lot of times, you know, when they're oversold like this, it takes some kind of variable to get them out of this bearish momentum. So maybe the variable will be we'll get some real volume come in and they won't do. I still find it, I still don't understand what XTC is doing if the rest of the market decided to go, because it looks like it built another bear flag. And if that's just going down by itself, I mean, that's fine. It actually benefits what my strategy is and being outside liquid with XDC right now. You know, it benefits what I'm trying to do, but I still don't understand if it was to go unabated to the downside and XRP and XLM were just to continue up, it wouldn't make much sense. That would mean there's a divergence there. And that would mean you'd have to keep your eye on XDC if it continued to go down and the rest of the market went up, that it would be the opposite. And it could be setting up a scenario where when all the market starts to dump out, it finds its way into something with the R3/4 like XDC if that's the case. And if that's the case, we could see a 30 to 50% dump down overall while the rest of the market's kind of trying to figure out its resistance. That would be crazy. But that's, you know, that's fairy tale land for me if that happens. And that would be against XRP and XLM, because that would mean it's creating its own distinction, its own diversion. How about algo? So yeah, with HBAR 1970 Legend, it is at a support structure, and until it breaks down, you can at least feel good about it. And if it does hold here, there is an optic here where it comes up here like XRP to 220-ish, you know, maybe. And this could come up to 12.8 and finish this off and try to, if it does what like XDC did before it broke down, XDC did come up to the 200 day. So, I mean, XDC came up to here, so that would mean, but I don't know if the rest of the market's just going to follow. I'm just saying that's what XDC did. And I find it ironic that it's going down like this. As far as what other influencers say, I have no idea. I don't watch them. So I don't even want to I don't know. Mark Korf, thanks for the gifted sub as well. Gifts it to Double D. Congratulations on getting your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. That is so amazing, and that is my face superimposed on that emoji badge. And my son just woke up from his nap, so our time is thin here. It's already our second live of the day. It's 50 minutes again. And I like what Big Dogs, or what All in Illusion said. And thanks for being in Townsend for over 1 year at the I Told You So badge. Frankie Fresh, thank you. And Janine for being here and being in Townsend 6+ months with the XP Predictor, along with Big Dog. Janine, I hope you're doing very, very well this morning, or this afternoon now. And Frankie, I hope your hand's moving ever so slightly better. Every single day is a good day that we're here together. Yeah, Happy Fox, as far as Filecoin, I believe he was saying it's a Gen 1 fintech. You're correct. It's basically like, you know, the iPhone first version compared to it being coming out 10 years later and being reworked. It's not obsolete, but old tech technically ends up being just that eventually. It's All an Illusion though said if anyone on YouTube shouldn't be yelled at, it's Tom. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. No problem. I'm a bear, Tom. Nobody gonna like me. Big Dog, I know. But you're only preaching what you're seeing, you know. It's just you understand how to read things a little bit deeper, and that's what you're seeing like that. There's no problem with us seeing this, but we also have to understand like there is still the macro perspective here that, you know, with the right kind of possibility here, we just need to find the right potential. Is anybody else more keen in on XDC over some other things right now to see exactly how this plays out? Because the 4 hourly's crashed down. Again, if you want to talk about a bearish divergence, you've got the RSI continuing to go up on XDC, but the price is coming down. That doesn't seem good on a daily perspective for XDC, if I'm just being honest. Like, why is the price coming down and the RSI continues to go up with the stochastic? That doesn't seem good. This isn't good. Like, look it. It doesn't seem good. I don't understand. Like, why does it keep going up? Even if it was from here you wanted to take it at when it went bullish, the price has gone down from 5174 down to 45, and it just kept going up. You're diverting here in a bearish way. I'll yell at Tom. Thank you, brother. You're welcome, CJ2 Pilot. Thanks for being in Townsend for over 2 years at the XP589 Moon Badge. Scott, thanks for being in Townsend 3+ months with the XP Meteor. I greatly appreciate it. 6 p.m. will be interesting, and as long as I can get on, it probably won't be at 6. It would probably be at, well, I know the Lions play at 4:30, but with my son being up, his last milk, I'm going to do it, time it around his last milk, so it's 2 o'clock-ish. So he'll get his last milk around 7. So expect me sometime between 7 and 8 o'clock, I would say. Because I think it's going to be important to do a live, just in case we do break down, or if we do break out from here. I understand my lives aren't going to get around very good today because of doing all this content. I even did a short while I was walking home from church. But I think it's more important for the 85 who were here by the end. There was like 107 people at one point. But our 85 still here. I think it's more important for us to come together and not worry about who sees it after. And just in the moment, we all come in here, we try to understand, and then we try to come up with the correct correlation here of what's happening. So, but we'll see. I still see an opportunity here. I just want to see, you know, what goes this way and what goes the opposite way. Because there is definitely, I can make the argument right now that Bitcoin has an opening up to like 91K. Even though it looks like it could fall off. So we could make these arguments, but we got to get through this thinly traded weekend. Because at any point, this could just, we could fall the way that XDC did. I'm telling you, it makes me it makes me very uncomfortable with what XDC is doing. There's a reason why it's one of the hardest ones to get, and it's the only true tie to R3, and it's the only token that's a layer 1 and a layer 0. HBAR, XRP, on Algo, all public rails, whereas XDC is the only hybrid private. Yes! I love when people understand between the very top surface. I can't remember the last time somebody wrote something like that out about XDC in here. That is beautiful. Dedication, the man did a short on the way home from church. Well, because I didn't know how many people on Sunday, especially, would be able to watch that whole hour live that I did before church. So I figured I'd summarize it in 60 seconds, like I normally do in the morning. Tom not wearing a hat. Hey, I swear you're just reading into that, and it's a coincidence that when I don't wear a hat, it's red, and when I do, it's green. It's a pure coincidence. So, but yeah, be blessed, everybody. I'm gonna go make sure my son's doing good. I'm so glad that we got to spend